This is Sam and Joku, host of the Ravens Talk podcast, and the Ravens finally pick up a victory led by Tyler Huntley. We'll talk about what that means for the Ravens next moving forward.
I'm Kadri Ismail, Super Bowl champion, and I'll tell you this, the defense also stepped up. We'll break it all down.
This was a complete team win. Even the special teams had a lot to do with this win. Offense, defense, special teams, all uniting as one. And now the Ravens, they are back. We talk about that and so much more coming on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
Rise and shine. It's the Ravens Squad. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. This is Sam and Joku, joined as always with Kevin Oestreicher and Kadri Ismail. The Ravens win. Holy moly. Can we believe it? After the September 14th victory against the Cleveland Browns, everyone thought the Ravens were going to have way more wins under the belt. We haven't received one until today, October 26th, 2025. The Ravens have another win under their belt, and what this means for the Ravens cannot be overstated enough. The Ravens obviously having a lot of issues with injury reports and conspiracies and all of that tied to that. Lots to get to in this episode. We'll touch on, most importantly, the Ravens picking up the victory over the Chicago Bears. We'll also touch on, again, that injury report that's got everybody talking about it. And we'll touch on the Ravens versus Dolphins. Short week for the Ravens. They have to travel to Miami to face off against the Miami Dolphins and hopefully get another winning streak going, well, first of the season for this team as we look to perhaps mention the word playoffs again without snickering a little bit. Should be something to think about. Q, I'll start with you. The Ravens pick up the victory over the Chicago Bears. Snoop Huntley gets the start in this contest because of, Lamar Jackson being unable to go with that hamstring injury. What were your thoughts about that game? Seeing as you were at the game in the press box, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm still here in the press box. I am still sitting in the same seat that I sat in when the clock struck 0. And you saw that the scoreboard was 30 points for the Ravens and only 16 for the Chicago Bears. It's surreal because I actually teased on our show as well as on WJZ's prediction special. I think I said 30-13. I don't know if KO was as close as I was. I think you might have went over 30. But I'm just going to say that, you know what? We all were saying that the Ravens were going to get this necessary victory. Look, the Chicago Bears, for sure, they are deserving of 4 victories. 4 victories in a row. And anytime you can get 4 victories in a row, I mean, you're doing something, period. I don't care who you play. This is a National Football League. Just look at the Bengals and Jets game. I digress. When you see Ben Johnson and the way they kind of came out and started off strong, marching down the football field, I was very concerned that, oh boy, same thing. Here we go again. And sure enough, it was Mike Green. Mike Green, RB Green, that was able to get the necessary stop. I was like, wow, I'm impressed. I am sitting here looking at the statistics and I'm like, okay, cool. That was a, significant drive down the football field, 13 plays, 64 yards, but it only ended up in a field goal. So I thought that was a win. It was for the Bears to come back with another 11-play drive that had me somewhat concerned, yet it ended in a field goal again. So from a red zone defense standpoint, you can see where Zach Orr was trying to scheme up a lot, but there's the X's and O's, but there's the Jims and Joes. And you saw this team kind of just hold its water. Caleb Williams was slinging it around for sure, but you can also see where some of the running game was showing up. Swift was making some strong runs, and all of that came about. But I like the fact that it only ended in field goals. And then, of course, yes, the 12-play, 62-yard drive. That's where I was like, look at these guys. They're going down a football field methodically. And when it got into the red zone, you saw Derrick Henry being Derrick Henry, and, of course, getting it in, punching it in. And that's where I thought game was on. Okay, 7-6 game. Let us continue to move this thing along. that's where I think we as a squad post-game show can take over before I go ahead and talk about all this entirety of the game. I like the start of the game.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that is something John Harbaugh talked about, is limiting the Bears on their opening possessions to just 6 points. And it was something, because this game, actually, when you look at the box score, a lot of the stats were pretty even between both teams, but where it differed was that the Ravens were able to convert on more red zone opportunities. Ravens had less penalties than the Bears did. The Bears were just penalty laden and mistake after mistake after mistake. And then the turnover battle, it was just one, could have been two, but I guess we're not going to talk about that. But Nate Wiggins has an interception, and this, to me, it was truly a complete team win. I said this when we did the watch along, when I did the instant reaction show. All 3 units impressed me today. You got to give a shout out, obviously, to Snoop and for what he was able to do. But look, John Harbaugh had his guys ready to play, and he normally does coming out of a bye week, but he had those guys ready to play today. Todd Monken, after having everything come out about him over the last week, multiple reports and, anonymous players and team sources just bashing him over and over again, he comes out with, I thought, a really good game plan. And then I think Zach Orr, I was so impressed with these pressures and these blitzes that we saw. It felt like Mike McDonald there.
It did.
Calculated blitzes. And the thing with Mike is he didn't blitz a ton during his time here in Baltimore. The Ravens blitzed a lot in this game, but it felt like it made sense when they were doing it. It felt like it made sense when they were sending Hamilton up the middle. It felt like it made sense when they were sending guys on corner blitzes, when they were sending linebackers. Like, it just all made sense today, which is something where it just felt so discombobulated early on in the season. But the key sequence to me, I think there were a couple of them, Q, you mentioned some, but the one that I think was key was the Ravens have to punt the ball back to the Bears when they're up by 3 points. Jordan Stout, special teams, pins them at the 4-yard line. I know then they had the false start penalty, backs them up. But then the defense steps up, and Nate Wiggins intercepts that ball. And then it's the offense's turn, and Charlie Kohler walks into the end zone. Your guys were just balling today. Kohler, Mike Green, everybody was stepping up for you today. But that was it. All 3 units played in sync today. I felt everybody played off of one another. And that, to me, when you have a complete team win like that, those are the best types of wins, in my opinion.
It seems like the bye week helped.
5, just to be clear, that 4th and 5, because here at the stadium and where my press seat is located, like diagonal, there was a gentleman that was livid that John was delaying and what's going on and what are we doing. I think he was under the assumption that if we're going to have, some guts about us, let's go ahead and go for it. So KO, like, boy, this if Jordan Stout doesn't get like some sort of something, man, I mean that's special teams play right there. Like that's clutch. That the stadium was about to erupt. It was about to erupt. And John even mentioned it in the post game as well, recognizing that, it was all for naught if it doesn't get inside the 5 like it did.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That would have been something crazy. I mean, sometimes, do you think the fans wanted them to go for it on 4th and 5, or it was with Tyler Huntley? I mean, as great as he played in this game, that's asking a lot from a backup QB.
I was saying they should have.
Yeah, I think the mindset was that John, has gone for it in the past, and you're in a desperate situation. So for that desperation, let's do something. And doing something in that particular case was going for it. You got the ball inside your opponent's side of the field, and technically, you should be able to punt it. I'm sorry, not punt it, but kick the field goal at worst. And what does that put you up by 6? But then, you risk getting them the ball back. Obviously, they can come down the football field, all those things. And I think that's what was playing in the mind of the fan base here. They were. This was a game where, yes, the Ravens got their victory. But boy, you just see they were on edge the entirety of the game.
You're absolutely right. We're going to touch on that a little bit more because I think the injury report had a lot to do with that. Thinking that Lamar Jackson was going to be available when he wasn't. I think it really, I mean, everyone was tense. The fans were tense. The coaching staff were tense. The players were tense. This was as big of a must-win game as there could have possibly been without there being a postseason asterisk next to it. I mean, it was such a huge game for the Ravens to get done. Everyone had faith in Tyler Huntley to get the job done. I think a lot of people were wondering whether or not Tyler Huntley should have got to start against the Rams, at least minimum in that contest, especially what we saw from Cooper Rush the game prior with the Houston Texans. Q, seeing Tyler Huntley perform the way he did in this game, do you think the Ravens probably, hesitated a little bit? Maybe they should have pulled the trigger on Huntley starting against the Rams, or are you okay with them trying Cooper Rush one more down before giving Huntley the ultimate chance to be the savior?
Well, there's two things that is at play here. And one is one that I don't really want to talk about because that's KO's world. That's called salary cap and salaries and that wholesome off-season goodness. But I mean, he got paid. That's the bottom line. And so you're paying a guy to come in to be your backup. And yes, like from that aspect of it all, you should give him one more chance. And it was a game where I thought if the offensive line was better, that there were throws that he could have made that he just simply wasn't able to make. Or have time to make. And then, of course, we know that from an O-line standpoint, I mean, heck, down in the goal line, the, brotherly shove or however you want to call it, it didn't work. And the fourth down call, it didn't work. And so Cooper Rush was doomed from the start. Now, with that said, yes, desperate times calls for desperate measures. And this is a desperate team because, a lot of people were saying, including us, that this is kind of the regular season Super Bowl because if you think you're going to salvage the season, you need to string together some wins. And it starts with a team that's technically not on your caliber, but you need to get a spark. And the spark was Tyler Huntley. I like the fact that he can run the offense way better than what we've seen from Cooper Rush, and Cooper Rush's game just doesn't fit this offense. So, there are things that I saw on the football field here where you could just see the continuity of the offense. You could see the escapability to extend the play that Snoop did that was just perfect fit. Like the guys, all of them, the skill guys are used to it being that way. Interestingly enough, and both of you guys, please, walk me off the ledge or however you want to say it, but I'm like everybody can see where I'm looking at, but I'm inside M&T. Obviously, I am in the one end zone where the press box is at, and I'm looking down where it was the Broncos game is on as well. So therefore, I'm looking at the Broncos game, and they just scored a great touchdown for themselves. The game or the part of the end zone where Tyler was trying to get it to Bateman, and it was an incomplete pass. Mother of pearl. I mean, I get it that it was an incomplete pass. I get it that the skill level of a Lamar Jackson, that probably would have been a touchdown. But at least that was an option there for Tyler and Bateman to have that opportunity. And the way in which he extended the play that drew the defense up, that freed up Bateman. I mean, it's that type of thing where you're just not getting that from Cooper Rush. So was it a successful play? No. Was it an incomplete pass? Yes. But the principle of the matter, that's where you're seeing it compared to Cooper Rush, where it might have just been a sack or him throwing the ball out of bounds and no one having an opportunity to catch it.
Yeah, I think that you mentioning that's really important because, everything you said was right. Cooper just can't do the things that Huntley can in this offense. And, we all talked about it here on the show where it's just like spending the money on a backup quarterback. I'm totally cool with that. But you got to spend it on someone who fits the system a little more than Cooper Rush. And we saw today why that is the case. I mean, I think that, after the first start from Cooper, they should have given Huntley the opportunity to start against the Rams. They didn't, and it kind of went the way that it did. But we saw, yes, in that Rams game, even when Huntley played in the fourth quarter, I mean, yeah, we definitely saw some of the things that he could do compared to Cooper. But I was really impressed with Huntley because he's a quarterback that over the course of his career has generally struggled with the deep ball. It's been something that, you go back to that Bills game in 2021, the playoffs, where he missed Hollywood Brown wide open for that touchdown that would have tied the game or something. Maybe even
I
can't even remember. Yeah, I can't even remember what it would have done. Would have been a huge touchdown for him. So
Easy touchdown. Easy.
Yeah, he was loading up to Bateman and Flowers and Ange. Like they were getting deep. And because I initially thought that it was just going to be like, all right, you're going to do short and intermediate stuff, a lot of outbreaking routes to the sideline. Maybe you try to go over the middle of the field at times, but they were loading up. And the Bears defense, great turnover defense, but you peel back that curtain. I said this on the interaction. You peel back that curtain. That Bears defense is not good. And also considering they were missing their top 3-4 corners in this game as well. I mean, they were 28th in the league in passing defense and 31st in the league in rushing defense coming into this game. Penalties, they were bad, scoring deep, like everything. It was not good for them. And the big thing that I was talking about, and we talked about too, was yes, protecting the football. You need to protect the football against the Chicago Bears team because it gives the offense other opportunities. I thought after that first quarter, defense had played like 12 and a half minutes of 15. I'm like, man, they're going to be gassed by the end of this game if this is what keeps going on. But then we saw this shift from the offense. The Ravens only had 3 points or 3 plays in that first quarter. And then you come back and you're able to do what you do for the rest of the game. I mean, I thought that Tyler protecting the football, he looked poised. He didn't look super panicked. He took the smart play on most of these plays. And I was really impressed with what he showed.
100%. I was very impressed with it. Hopefully, if his number gets called again, he answers the bell because, man, he was a huge factor in the Ravens getting this victory. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll touch a little bit more about this game. We'll also touch on the injury report saga that had everybody talking prior to the Ravens win. That was the topic of conversation. We'll touch on it here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Sam Njoku, Kevin Oestreicher, Kadri Ismail, talking Ravens football. Ravens picked up a huge victory over the Chicago Bears, 30-16, their second win of the season. Lots to talk about in this game. We already talked about Tyler Huntley bringing in the W for the Ravens, a big-time effort because the Ravens thought they'd have Lamar Jackson, but didn't. We'll touch on what that means for the Ravens moving forward in just a little bit. Just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected, it's only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights and this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda, Move and Be Moved. The Ravens pick up the victory over the Bears. And a lot of this conversation entering this game was really about what was going on with the coaching staff. John Harbaugh, Zachary Orr, Todd Monken. Todd Monken receiving a lot of criticism, even though it was really the offense that was, picking up victories for the Ravens, victory for the Ravens and putting up points on the board. And the defense was really struggling, but very surprising to see the things that came out from various reports from media outlets locally about how the players felt about Todd Monken. Q, what were your thoughts about what was said about Todd Monken throughout this week? And do you think he answered the call in a big way with this win?
So I guess the thing that John was saying in his press conference was the fact that that report, those were anonymous voices. Those weren't specifically named guys, behind the quotes. So because of that, it was dismissed, I believe, within the organization. I've been in those situations before where the anonymous guy and he says XYZ, and as a player, as a coach, they call it out. Brian Billick was like, I don't know who is who, but all I know is, I'm gonna call out those anonymous people and they're a liar right now and blah, blah, blah. Well, we rallied and we won a Super Bowl because of that. So take that. But I also will say where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm sure that there have been some people that were frustrated and, voiced some level of concern, however true or exact it is or was. But I think for what we've seen from Todd Monken, I mean, he called a great game. I thought the way in which, again, he was able to just weave in so many guys. I mean, from Zay Flowers to Bateman. I mean, Bateman was targeted 4 times, but those 2 catches that he had, those were clutch catches. I mean, how can you say about the D-hop back shoulder on 3rd and 6? Like, mother of pearl, that seals the game right there. I think what we saw with, Charlie Kolar, his 10-yard touchdown was so cool because of just the flow and the misdirection and his ability to get open. I mean, that's scheming stuff up. I think coming out of the bye and trying to figure out how to get pieces in place. Well, Keaton Mitchell, he literally showed up, 10.8 yard average, and we saw a little bit of it with Cooper Rush when he was in there, but we saw a lot of it today, and I thought it was purposeful. Still, the bell cow is D Hen, and he had his 21 carries. So, in the grand scheme of it all, the balance was there. Kind of weird because Justice Hill's probably like, driving away from the stadium, kind of feeling some type of way. He only had the 1 touch for 2 yards, and that was it. But a win. I shouldn't say a win is a win is a win because I've been on that side where you've had the low stats. And you're like, what the, how in the, who the, and so I get it. But yes, for the Ravens needing to get their second win on what is going to be a very short week, got to go down to Miami to play a Miami team that beat the Falcons. I thought that Todd Monken, offensively, you come out of a bye. Offensively, John Harbaugh picks up yet another victory coming out of a bye. I thought that Todd, as far as what's the word I'm looking for, the self-scouting to put his guys in good position to get this win, KO. I'm like, yo, bro, that was as impressive as it got.
Yeah, it definitely was. And, I thought that what I saw throughout the course of the game, and this was one of my keys, is that the Ravens rarely, it happened, but the Ravens rarely put themselves in negative game script and negative situations when it came to 2nd and 3rd down. It always felt like they were in 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5. And, if you look at the opposite from the Bears side of things, it always felt like they were behind the sticks, like 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9. The Ravens did a good job of stopping the Bears ground game. But, with Derrick Henry, it kind of felt like he would fall forward for 4 yards on a play where he shouldn't have even gotten 1, or, Keaton was able to get some space, or, a short passing game worked out for them. So that was one of the big things to me, was don't put yourself in negative situations offensively. And then with that, I think that despite the fact that Derrick Henry only averaged 3.4 yards per carry, it put a lot of stress on the Bears defense just to have him out there with Tyler Huntley, with both of those guys operating the way that they did. It's obviously put up to a whole nother level when Lamar's out there, but it's, again, just the option, and you can't commit everybody to the box, and you need to account for more guys there. I thought that, they got Zay open really effectively and used him, he's got to jukes back a little bit sometimes.
Just go forward,
gotta, go straight forward, and there's the first down. But, he's so talented. And again, I love the fact that they took deep shots in this game. I really was only expecting 1 or so to maybe see if anything was going to happen there, but they were committed to doing it. And I think that again, stretched the defense thin to be able to have to say, we have to cover all 3 levels and be worried about all 3 levels. And it didn't let the Bears defense pin their ears back on any one thing. Everything was effective for Baltimore. I liked what Todd Monken was calling up. They do have to be a little bit better in the red zone. 3 for 6, 1 for 2 is not bad in the red zone. 2 for 4, you're like, okay, every increment of 50% though gets a little bit, you're leaving more opportunities out of the board there. And again, Tyler Loop shout out for kicking the ball through the uprights when it mattered there and getting the points on the board. But again, a lot of positives from Todd Monken and company offensively in this one.
Good thing that you shouted out Tyler Loop, because Steve Loop chiming in with the 3-5 on Friday. He expects a big victory against the Dolphins.
Let's go
on Thursday. Let's hope that happens. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But you did mention that the Ravens offense was humming. They were 3 for 6. A big part of that, and Q, I want to get your thoughts on this. I didn't get the chance to listen to the press conference, but Fahizi said that I hope Stanley is okay also. I know he came back, but I doubt we were done when he got hurt. He did look like he was in a lot of pain. Came back Did John Harbaugh or anybody talk about Stanley or anything like that, or are we just assuming that he's okay?
No. He didn't, and it really wasn't mentioned other than like, it's going to be one of those day-to-day type things. Did see him in the locker room. Looked like he was walking around. It wasn't like he was limping or feeling any type of way as far as favoring it. So those are all good signs. I think, we all held our collective breath here in the stadium, like, oh boy, yeah.
Whew.
So I'm glad that whatever went on with regards to the treatment that they did to get him back out there, like, maybe they did, old Toradol and hook that thing up, but who knows? I just know that he was able to kind of walk around in the locker room, and I'm sure once all that adrenaline wears down, managing the inflammation and all that to gear him back up for Thursday. I would not be surprised if he is, doing next to nothing this coming week.
I couldn't see more Joe Noteboom snaps. I was
terrified, Kevin.
I couldn't. So thankfully Stanley was back out there. Hopefully again he's healthy. But yeah, short week does definitely make it a little bit tricky and difficult when it comes to him because you don't want to rush it again. You don't want to like try to rush him up and play him and then it gets worse. So I wouldn't be shocked if he misses this week. But again, he was able to come back in there and perform and adrenaline and whatever method was used. That helps during a game, but obviously, Q, you mentioned it after the fact. You got to do a lot more management.
It seems like he is always in extreme pain following an injury. I mean, when he was on the floor, I was like, man, he is going through it. Was this a broken ankle or something? But he always seems like he's in extreme pain. And then, he always comes back afterwards. So he's a trooper. He can fight through a lot of injuries and stuff like that. Hopefully, he gets the rest he needs and he's ready to go for that, Dolphins game. Because as you mentioned, we don't want to see Noteboom out there. Fahizi also mentioned Carson Vincent should be activated. He probably will be, depending on, the outcome of this injury. I mean, I'd rather see him at this point than Noteboom. If Noteboom's out there, that means that Carson Vincent's doing terrible in practice because Noteboom hasn't shown much of anything. He must be awful out there. Maybe Emory Jones? Shout out. He does play tackle. Q, I know you're not really liking that.
He wasn't active, obviously, because they had to kind of get him still up to speed. This is the NFL, and I know Noteboom and just good God. But for Emory, yes, perhaps him getting an opportunity to go out there, but he didn't have many reps. I mean, that's the only thing that I'm concerned about. I don't deny his talent. He clearly has talent, and he wouldn't be here. Anyway, but I mean, there's some dudes that, we say, wow, why are you here? Because you got talent, okay, but you're not matching up your talent to what we're seeing out there on the football field, yet here you are, suited up every week. We digress on that. Anywho, with it comes to Emory Jones, yes, I hope, in fact, that he does get himself an opportunity to get out there on the field and show what he can do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Emory he'll be in consideration. It's just a really tough spot when you're trying to win all these games and go on a run. Can you trust a rookie with that? Sometimes the answer is yes. Like, rookies can be effective and contribute and be really big contributors to victories. Other times it just takes a while. And we've seen some of the ups and downs of the team's draft class this season. But again, anything is better than Joe Noteboom at this point. So, sign me up. Put me out there instead of Joe Noteboom because I don't know. I could maybe block a guy or two. So I
got your kick step down.
Throw me $1 million. I'll be out there for a game. I'll show them what I got.
Man, shoot, you better go ahead and get a big old insurance policy, maybe a $30 million insurance policy. They'll go out there. KO will be out there on the edge of the line. Talking about stuff. Okay, we got a wide zone look coming my way. The DN is licking his chops. I got Derrick Henry and Pancake Pat behind me. Oh my God, I am going to die. Hopefully all my affairs are in order and Kadri and Sam will be okay because I am not showing up for the post-game show. And if anybody asks me anything about anything, I'm just going to give them such the obscene gesture with my digits on my hand. And I'm going to be like, I'm not talking to y'all right now because my entire body hurts. Okay? It hurts. I am in pain. And I'm going to collect my insurance policy and I'm going to never, like, I'm retiring. I'm going to fly away, go somewhere, and I'm going to heal this body. I'm going to hire cadres missile training to help my body heal.
Yes.
There you go.
Because word, I hurt. That's what Kale's going to do if he goes out there.
So you're saying you believe in me?
Man, Note Boom is going to be like, oh my God. So that's what it looks like to block. Oh, okay. Oh, so all you have to do is just get in the guy's way and
Oh.
Little chop block. You get that's all I need. That's all I need.
Oh man. It'll take that, Kevin. It'll take that.
He's in concussion protocol.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the injury report saga. It was all the talk on social media on Saturday and much to begin on Sunday before the Ravens got the job done, turned things around. What a game by Tyler Huntley. This could be a very different discussion we're having in terms of what went down on Saturday with this injury report. We'll touch on it here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who don't believe, it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week, we're talking about somebody who redefined the moment. I'm thinking about Tyler Huntley. What a game Tyler Huntley had coming in on short notice to be that guy for the Baltimore Ravens, be that guy to get the Ravens that second win of the season. Even if the Ravens had not got the job done, his resilient effort was that had me thinking that anything can happen if you put your mind to it. That is the case with Tyler Huntley and the Baltimore Ravens. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to Mazda's vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. We're back here with the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Again, we're here every single week. Twice a week, actually, after every game, post-game show, and on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This week, we'll have the show on Thursday because the Ravens face off against the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football, so we'll have that post-game show immediately following that action. Hopefully, the Ravens pick up the dub there. The Ravens got the job done against the Chicago Bears, but that doesn't mean there wasn't a bit of controversy sprinkled on with that W. The Ravens kind of put it out there that Lamar Jackson was the full participant in practice and had many believing that was a sign that Lamar Jackson was ready to return. Then an interesting report came out from Ian Rappaport stating that Lamar Jackson did not necessarily become a full participant because he was with the scout team instead of with the first team taking reps in preparation for that Chicago Bears game. Soon after that, the Baltimore Ravens released a statement stating that Lamar Jackson's designation has been moved from full to limited and that he was ruled out for the game. Lots of stuff tied together in that brief 30-something minutes of news being dropped. And now Lamar Jackson being out, Tyler Huntley's in. Lots of conversation about what went down that caused the Ravens to put that full tag and then change it to limited. Q, you were at the press conference. I'm sure the reporters talked to John Harbaugh about it, and I'm sure John Harbaugh had a response. What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, he kind of played it more along the lines of, hey, listen, it's just a miscommunication. I mean, we already knew what was going to go on. We, just felt like, hey, there's an opportunity or potential for Lamar to play, but we just didn't know. And, I mean, it was a mistake. Well, that's a big mistake because you're talking about, obviously, the gambling situation that has been going on controversially with the NBA. And the NFL prides itself on the strictness of the injury policy. I know that, Bill Belichick years ago, precedent had been set that he got fined because they didn't list Tom Brady's arm. And so from that point forward, it's like, oh, okay. So they passive aggressively was like, yep, Tom Brady has a shoulder. Yep, Tom Brady has a shoulder. Yep, Tom Brady. Every week it was like, what?
Yep.
So, okay. Now you're in this position. And so, John's going to cover himself, which is fine. Obviously, the Ravens are going to, feel like they covered themselves, but it made for a weird scenario when it comes to communicating. And this team really doing a fine job of knowing the details of rules for them to make such a mistake. So I think bigger picture wise, it'll be interesting to see what the the league actually rules and how they come down on John if they do, or the Ravens in general, because it went from what, a 6.5 to 1.5 the other way, where they were underdogs. I'm like, good God, that's such a big jump. There's somebody in Vegas right now like, gosh dang it, I should have bet the over. Give me the points.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the last we're going to hear about this situation, I'm sure, where you're right. I'm interested to hear how they rule it, but it's another blemish on the record of, this Ravens team so far this season that's had so many awful moments. And, I'm curious because, the NFL is going to look into it, like you said, Q, and whatever that ruling is, it is. But with everything going on in the world right now, yeah, it's going to have that big magnifying glass on it. And, this isn't just like a third string quarterback you're talking about here. This is like the face of the franchise, best player on the team, one of the best players in the league. And, you mean to tell me that, a head coach of 18 years isn't involved whatsoever, and these decisions are as up to date on it and known? Like, that's what he said. That's what he claims. That's what he just said. But maybe a thing comes out and that's not the case. So I don't know what it's going to be, but I guess it didn't matter at the end of the day because they won without Lamar, but that's kind of what goes on too, where they want every single advantage they can get. That's been their MO. They try to be cute with it. And I think they just got too cute here. And I think that they're going to claim that it was just an honest mistake because if they try anything else, I think what comes out of this is probably a pretty hefty fine with admitting a mistake. If they tried anything else, I think you're looking at maybe loss of draft picks or other heavy punishment. So if there are other, again, we don't know what they're going to find. We don't know at the time of this recording, but the whole situation is, I don't recall. I don't know if you guys have seen it before where a player has been downgraded from full to limited participation in practice like that before. It was kind of new. So, it was a great win today, but that is obviously going to be a big topic of conversation throughout the week.
Certainly will be. I think there was a situation where I may speaking out of turn here. It might have been in Falcons that listed a player that was out, and that player still ended up playing. I think they got dinged for that, but nothing along the lines of this where a player was moved from full to limited and then also ruled out all in the same time. And that has a lot of Ravens fans thinking that perhaps this is more to do with Lamar Jackson having a say in whether or not he goes or not. In fact, there's a comment here from Damon Watkins that says Lamar must have changed his mind. A lot of people are saying that, okay, this is Lamar, deciding, I wanted to play, but now, Saturday comes up a few minutes after the report comes out from Ian Rappaport about him not being in with the first team, that Lamar changed his mind. He's like, I won't play this game. I'll play against the Dolphins. Kevin, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think this had anything to do with Lamar Jackson and his willingness to play in this game? Or is this more so to do with what, many believe to be just the Ravens trying to get over on the Bears and the rest of the league with this designation?
I don't think it necessarily is willingness for Lamar, but I think that, it's a joint effort between the team and the player. You can't force the player to go out there if he doesn't feel like he's ready. And, the problem wasn't about Lamar not playing necessarily. It was more so about how everything was handled. Again, we don't know how much of an influence Lamar had on that, or if it was the team, if it was the player. But, if Lamar comes to you and says, hey, I'm not feeling the way I thought I would, I don't want to play, apparently being hopeful about something and designating him as that, you don't designate someone based off of hope. You do it based off of participation in practice. So, that to me, just it's all very fishy. I don't know what's going on. The Ravens are, like you kind of said, Sam, trying to cover their tracks, I think, as best as they can to avoid any major punishment. They got caught here. It just is what it is, whether it was intentional or not. They got caught, and they're trying to figure out how to lessen the damage or keep it to a minimum here. Because look, if this ends up, if it's a hefty fine, then okay. If you lose draft picks, people deserve to lose jobs. It is what it is. And again, if it's injury and PR people, well, they cost you a draft pick if that's what it comes down to. So whatever happens here, I'm very curious because, it's for the integrity of the game as well, where, flip the script here. What if the Ravens are playing in an important game for them and, the Bears listed Caleb Williams or the Bills listed Josh Allen and you're prepping for that guy, and all of a sudden, hey, it's this, and then all of a sudden it works out and it's not in the Ravens' favor. We'd all feel a certain type of way about it. So, it kind of goes that other way too.
I think that, very interesting that John Harbaugh decided to go and say, hey, okay, it was the PR staff and the training staff that's responsible for it. You blaming Chad Steele and the PR team over there for putting the injury report out? This is
I don't know who it is, but that's what John Harbaugh said.
I'm saying this is John.
So yeah,
the way he was saying, he was trying to brush it off. Basically, what he's trying to do, just there's just a communication. I mean, we already knew. Like, come on, like, so
that's crazy.
It's not over. It is not over.
There is going to be some splaining to do, and it's not going to be to the fan base. It's going to be to Roger Goodell and his minions as they come in over to one winning drive and say, okay, bright light down on Chad Steele's face or someone else in PR and be like, what happened? Who typed up the report?
I just find it hard to believe that the CEO de facto of the team and John Harbaugh, who has his fingers in every single thing, didn't have a say in who was limited and who was full and what have you. They just need to understand the rules. At minimum, it was probably just ignorance where, the Ravens thought, okay, you practice fully as a scout team QB. We can add him as a full participant, or, that's the minimum that can go. But still, it's an egregious failure for the Ravens' part, in my opinion, and it's going to cost them in some way, shape, or form. As you mentioned, Kevin, this ain't over. Punishment's coming in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's a slap on the wrist. Maybe it's a fine. Maybe we lose one of those very, saucy fifth-round draft picks that Eric DeCosta seems to hang on tight like it's a newborn baby. But whatever it is, this is far from over. But luckily for the Ravens, they were able to pick up the victory here. Had the Ravens lost this game, in your opinion, Q, how much bigger of a deal would this have been than the fact that Tyler Huntley kind of came in, swooped in, and saved the game?
Well, I mean, we good God, man. Like, when you say winning cures everything, like, bruh, why are you going to go ahead and have that high fructose corn syrup drink?
I knew you were going to say something, Q. I knew you were going to say something, Q.
I'm just appalled.
I know. I never drink soda.
I'm fining you. Like, that's like killing your liver right now.
I'm done.
Your blood sugar numbers are just out the roof right now.
Know.
Like, you just got me off sidetracked, verklempt. Okay? Like, we're fining. We're going to have a Raven Squad show fine. Like, somebody in the chat, tell me how much we should be fining him and what is the punishment, how many push-ups and how many miles of walking he needs to do to burn off that nastiness that has infected his innards right now. Go ahead, chat. Let's go. Whew. Anyway, mother of pearl, that just shocked me. I'm in shock right now. I don't even know what to say.
I never drink soda. I just like kid's birthday party.
Then you just
I know.
Oh my God! You had the kid's birthday party. That means that you infected the kids with the high fructose corn syrup.
They didn't drink any soda. Okay. They don't drink soda. They did have juice though. Sorry, they had juice. I know, not any better, but I digress.
But anywho, I digress as well. Ooh, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Oh my God! So when you talk about covering up, if the Ravens would not have gotten their victory, I think this would have been a bigger story. And therefore, you would have had the high fructose corn syrup being drunk by everybody. And the world would have been on its end, because with Lamar Jackson, like Vegas is thinking you're going to win. I mean, the fan base, we're all thinking that, oh man, Lamar is going to be back. This is going to be great. However, the Ravens, they got away with it. And I don't say got away with it like, ooh, they snuck out of here with some kind of something. No, they got away with it as in offense, defense, special teams. They showed up. Todd Monken showed up with the way he was able to do things. Clearly, Zach Orr, there was a report that he was having conversations with Mike McDonald over the bye week and kind of analyzing things. Great, cool. That's awesome as well. So all of it, they in a positive way got away with it, as in they did their due diligence to prepare the rest of the squad. Still, there are some things that still need to be cleaned up. I did see Roly Poly Oli do his thing. a couple times in a positive, but then Roly Poly only did his things a couple times. Like, what are you doing, bruh? What's up? What are we doing here? Kyle Hamilton, weirdly, I mean, there were some misses there. Alohi Gilman had some misses, but those are things you need to clean up. And goodness gracious, like I thought that Mike Green had, obviously the sack, but there were some other pressures that I was like, could have been, should have been. Marlon coming off the edge, gosh golly, like Caleb Williams makes a spectacular throw. DJ Moore just makes a heck of a grab. So, it's kind of like this roller coaster ride of high fructose corn syrup that you're going to be drinking, and your body's going to go way on up. Your brain's going to be like, oh, wow, I have some fructose that's in me. And then all of a sudden, the uric acid is going to happen. The uric acid, it's going to happen, and it's not going to be good. Okay? That's not good. You need some luteolin to help nullify the effects of the uric acid. The Ravens got 30 points. And the Chicago Bears only had 16. And that means that, KO, you tell me, that fourth quarter, how critical was that for the Ravens for 2 series? Well, let's look at that. Like 2 of them. One was for 9 plays, 66 yards. And the other one was, the Charlie Kolar, like obviously they got the ball back because of the interception. You get interceptions, good things happen. And hallelujah for that luteolin that can intercept the uric acid effect of that high fructose corn syrup of that drink that you had that will remain nameless. Chat, beat them up. Chat, beat them up. Go ahead, KO.
Oh, man.
But you're asking me to follow that up? You're asking me to follow that up? Come on, I don't know if I can do that, Q. I mean, I see Moggs in the chat saying mother of corn syrup. He put a spin on your mother of pearl over there. But man, I mean, yes, the fourth quarter was huge. I mean, that by the way, that Caleb Williams and DJ Moore play, because I was like, they're gonna win, the Ravens are gonna, and then they hit that play, and I'm like, oh no, I'm like, oh no, go please no. But I mean, look, in terms of, back to the question that seemed like it was 30 minutes. It's like 5 questions ago at this point. Now it feels like you're right. Getting away with it. I don't know if like that's the right phrase to use, but I mean, yeah, if they had lost, I kind of said that actually this morning when I did the pregame episode for the show. I was like, either way, he's gonna have to answer questions about it. But if it's after a win, he'll probably just kind of be like it happened. Da, da, da. If they lost, he might have had some pretty snippy answers about what was going on there, and probably would have asked more about it if we're being honest. So Tyler Huntley saves the Ravens season and probably saves John Harbaugh some stress of answering some questions with the win they put on Sunday.
Oh yeah, big time. So shout out to Tyler Huntley. I'm sure he got a big hug from John Harbaugh after the game. Well, crazy enough, I know it's a short week, and how short is it? We got to move on to the Dolphins game. We got to put the Bears game in the rearview mirror, because in a few days, the Ravens travel to Miami to face off against the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. It's something that we're going to discuss here. Get a little preview. Not going to throw too much out there. I know the Dolphins game just ended. The Ravens game just ended. Not too much to really dive into, but we're going to talk about what this can mean, win or loss, for the Ravens heading up here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. If you're a business owner, here is the truth. SaaS promised to make things easier, make work easier. But now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's right, rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. We are back here with the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Ravens get the victory against the Bears. Next up, the Miami Dolphins. We'll be back here on Thursday following the Ravens-Dolphins game to talk all about, hopefully, what turns out to be another victory under the belt of this Baltimore Ravens squad. The Ravens beat the Bears. Dolphins take care of business against the Falcons. something that many did not expect. What are your initial thoughts, Q, about this game as the Ravens are looking to build upon their performance? Adam Schefter reported that Lamar Jackson should be back. Crazy things have happened in regards to Lamar Jackson's availability, but we're going to hinge on to the hope that Lamar Jackson does in fact return for that Miami Dolphins game. What are your initial thoughts about the contest?
I will say this. I mean, this is Mike McDaniel, who has he himself been under fire because the Dolphins have underperformed, because it's a scenario where, there were the high expectations, the explosiveness of the offense, the ability when it comes to, retooling the defense, Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator. I think the big thing that I look at for this Dolphins game is staying the course. What do you mean, Kadri? Stay the course. Stay the course as in offense, defense, special teams. Like, obviously, it's a short week. When you go down to an opponent's place, that road team usually is the underdog because it's such a short week and you got to factor in the travel. The bigger picture of Tua and how you are going to disrupt his rhythm and timing, because that's what their offense is all about. Thankfully, I guess you could say that from a tight end aspect of things, you're not going to have to worry about Darren. Why am I drawing a blank? Thank you, Darren Waller. Yeah, see, that high fructose corn syrup still got me all just verklempt. Man, like, what the heck? But Darren Waller, for the fact that he's going to be out, that's a good positive for the Ravens as far as having to cover people. Clearly, Waddle is still, priority number one, and they got some speed demons at the running back position with Akan. Defensively, though, their defense, one of the things that they're trying to be is a strong, violent defense, and Anthony Weaver is, preaching that, hyping that up. I know he's going to know some of the things that the Ravens are known to do just because he's been in the building. And so I think that's something that, can somewhat work to their advantage tactically. I'd be curious to see how they're going to attack the guard position and see what they will do to kind of disrupt the flow of it. But bigger picture wise, it's a short week. And in a short week, there are the bye week prep, and then the four scouts, they're the ones that are going to be looking at what the Dolphins did. So now that gets put on the lap of the coaches, and so hopefully that pre-4 scouting preparation will come into them, as they probably are less than usually. We'll give you 48 hours. I don't got 48. You're going to have that 23 and a half hour, and then it flips the script right into Miami and breaking down what they can possibly do game plan wise. So short turnaround, but I think this is something that isn't new for the league in general, but for the way in which both the Dolphins and the Ravens are going to prepare for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you have a short week like this, it's always difficult, but you kind of look at the light at the end of the tunnel there. And you have that mini bye that'll come up after the fact. If you're able to get a win, you're feeling pretty good about that. Like, man, I mean, I feel like if you're able to get a win, go to 3-5, and then have more time to rest and recover, I mean, you're just thinking about, man, like, whoa, you all of a sudden are in a really, really good spot. So, Miami played well against the Falcons on Sunday. They needed that game. I'm not sure Mike McDaniel would have been the coach if they lost that game to the Falcons, considering how bad they've looked so far this season. But I do believe that, when they're hitting on all cylinders, the Ravens provide a much tougher test than the Falcons gave them on Sunday. Obviously, that was without Michael Penix in there as well. Kirk Cousins was the one that was quarterbacking the Falcons there. So I think that, with Miami, they don't have Tyreek Hill. You listed off some of the weapons, right? Like that offense, they have explosiveness. But I thought that, the Ravens defense looked explosive. Like the Ravens defense, I thought it gave me so much, because they could have won this game like a super ugly win. And, I would have said, that was a great win. But man, there was a lot of things you have to fix on a short week. Still some things you have to fix, obviously. But at the end of the day, man, I'll tell you what, that team looked night and day to what we saw over the first 5-6 weeks of the season. And all it takes is one win to get momentum and start feeling good about yourself. Things in sports can shift in an instant. And hopefully this was the Ravens shifting moment because you need to go down to Miami and pick up another win. It's all for naught if you don't go out there and get the job done against the Dolphins on Thursday night. So hopefully they're able to come out healthy in that game. That's always a short week thing as well. So it's a big spot. Every spot is a big spot for them moving forward with the way they started the season.
1,000%. I think it's huge. And I think Raheem Morris of the Falcons really talked about what happened in that Dolphins game, saying that the Dolphins had an answer for the Falcons defensively, and the Falcons didn't really get a score in based on what we've seen until 5 minutes left to go in the game. So the Falcons really got outbeat there, outmanned. It's going to take a lot from the Ravens to, again, short week, travel to Miami and get ready for that contest. I'm sure the Dolphins are going to have a lot to look at as far as this defense, because this is not the same defense we saw in the middle of the season. We got Roquan Smith back. Hopefully Marlon Humphrey's healthy enough and can get out there. He did have like a head injury, I believe, maybe a concussion. But this Ravens team is starting to get things together. It's going to be interesting to see if this Ravens team can fight back and get this job done. And they're going to have Lamar Jackson ready to go. Q, I want to get a prediction for you, but how do you think things go in this game? You don't have to give me a score yet because, again, the Ravens just won. But how do you think things go on Thursday one way or another?
No, I think if it's the Lamar Jackson return and just watching him interact in the locker room, what I appreciated about it was the fact that he easily could have just dipped out and just said, all right, fellas, I'm out, short week, whatever. But like when I say he hung out and hung around, I think he, probably could have just been hanging out with Tyler Huntley. I mean, they're boys and all that. So he could have been hitching a ride. Who knows? But I will say, though, no, in all seriousness, he was talking to dudes. He went over and talked to his receivers. He went over and talked to a couple of his O-line. He went over and talked to Derrick Henry at length. He talked to dapped up strongly Mark Andrews. So he legit hung around. It was just funny because even in the scrum of the reporters trying to get a word in from Keaton Mitchell, Lamar was kind of still, his locker's right next to his, adjacent from his. And, it was like, oh, you could just see nobody's really talking to him. Obviously they're not allowed, but I'm saying it was just it was funny, to see So with that said, with Lamar being back, I don't think it's a scenario where it's like, oh, you're back? Oh, no, I think in my mind, the general is preparing for his return. Let me say that again. In my mind, the general, he's preparing for his return. Be like, yo, we're about to do this. Everybody get ready. So with that, yeah, you're going to have Anthony Weaver, defensive coordinator, former Ravens coach. You're going to have your hands full. Todd Monken has to prepare himself in the way in which the offense flows through Lamar as well and develop yet another game plan that's going to be really good and strong and solid. So I think there's a lot there. I think that, I don't have a score per se, but I think Mike McDaniels also is a competitor, and he's going to have his offense ready to go too. So this defense is going to definitely need to put themselves in a strong position to step up.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson, I believe that he knows and remembers that game when the Dolphins had all of those blitzes and all. That was a Thursday night game in Miami. That was embarrassing. And Lamar Jackson, obviously, it's been years, and they've evolved a lot since then. They have grown, and he has evolved as a player as well. But this game, every game is so important. And I think Kyle Hamilton did say it best. When your back's into a corner like that, you're going to start swinging and throwing punches and trying to get out of that corner as hard and as quickly as you can. And with every game essentially being a playoff game at this point, you really can't afford too many more losses. This would be a massive letdown if the Ravens were to drop this one. So again, I think the Dolphins, it was impressive what they did against the Falcons on Sunday, but I don't think that that's going to carry over. I would say the Ravens show up for this game. They're going to be ready to play. And, with the Ravens being a South Florida Ravens, there are a lot of players that are going to have sort of homecomings in this one, and they'll certainly want to show up and show out for all. I'm sure there'll be a ton of Ravens family members there as they look to get a win.
Oh yeah, I think Miami Dolphins games always a home game for Ravens fans, let alone the players who have a plethora of connections to that Florida State. So going to be a very fun game. We'll see you back here on Thursday. Again, no show on Wednesday because the next day is that Ravens Dolphins game. So huge game. Jam-packed episode. We didn't really get to touch on the return of Keaton Mitchell to action. Lots of bursts from him. The return of Andrew Voorhees and Daniel Falalala, as Q likes to call it, man. I mean, he's still in the lineup. So lots of stuff that we could have talked about, but lots of stuff we got to jam-pack into this episode. Much appreciated for you guys to join in. For myself, Q, KO, thank you guys so much for joining us here on another episode of the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. And we will see you after the Thursday Night Football game between the Ravens and the Dolphins.